It's the 7th graders right after, right?
After or before? 7th grade.
Can you stop? There you go.
I didn't grab the book. All right, let's go. Homework, get it out. Kristen, all right, questions on the homework. Questions on the homework.
Number 21 and 23.
All right. This was Josie's question yesterday. What about the ones that say x equals or y equals number? So this was the very last thing we did in class, and I said that all vertical lines are of the form of x equals k, and I said that all horizontal lines are the form of y equals k. Further, I said that all horizontal lines have a slope of, and all vertical lines undefined. Infinite, yeah, that's pretty smart, right? But please put undefined. We don't undefined. So if we look at 21, it says y equals 3. Therefore, the slope is no, it's 0. What was the other one? That was 21.
X equals 2.
Oh yeah, the other one's x equals so undefined. This book uses the words no slope for vertical lines. And what they're basically saying is, well, there's not an, if slope is a number that represents how steep, well, there is no, infinity is not a number, it's a concept, right? Therefore, that's why they say no slope. I don't particularly like that. I just say it's undefined slope. I like that a bit better. And I would say most books that I've encountered, they use undefined, not no slope. It has a slope, it's just undefined. All right. Any other questions? All right, let's grade this. Here we go. Number 2, slope is -3/2. Usually when kids make a mistake, you drop a negative, or you do run over rise instead of rise over run. See. What? It would, and remember the book is always going to put the negative in the middle. Okay. All right, number 4 is -2. Number 6, 3/4.
Did you just say 3/4?
Yes. Number 8 is also 3/4.
Why are you laughing?
Isn't it negative 3/4?
He's bold.
I am.
What kid literally decides to cheat like 2 inches away from the teacher and thinks they're going to get away with it?
It literally wasn't.
You had a blank sheet of paper, and as I called out the answer, you wrote it down.
Wait, isn't it number 8 negative 3/4?
Because I ripped the paper up before you got a chance to the second time.
Mr. 38.
Uh,
Isn't it negative 3/4, not just 3/4?
It's not, it's 3/4. 0 minus 3 is -3. 2 minus 6 is -4. Negative over negative is a positive. Number 10 is 3/2. 12 is 14/3. 14 is 3. 18 is -2/5. And then we already talked about 21, 23. 0 for 21 and undefined for 23. We good? Riley. Where's your homework? Landon, where's your homework? Okay.
I tried to do it, but you took it.
Right. Okay. We actually are in the, if there is a fun part of Algebra 1, we're in it, right? We are in a pretty good spot. Today is like a magic day in the sense that I'm going to teach you something, with the exception of maybe Hannah, who's been yelling this in my ear every day for the last 2 weeks. You guys don't know how to do this, right? It's really simple, and this is where everyone hates me that had me last year, right? I'm going to show you something that is extremely easy to do, but it does look like magic, right? Also, if you have your graphing calculator today, I'm going to ask you to pull it out. we will use it briefly, very briefly, towards the end of class. This is the chapter, listen please. This is the chapter that we, now pass this out since you're going to be late. We're going to, time out. Time out. I'm waiting on you. Anna. This is the chapter where we will be using our graphing calculators. Today is like a quick little, I just want to play with them a little bit, right? But starting tomorrow, I need you to bring your graphing calculators.
Hey, mine's bad.
What?
I don't have one. I also don't have one.
You need to get one.
Wait, the graphic calculator is like the one that was supposed to be on
So how much are they? How much are they?
Okay, do you have like any
But I got mine
is there any like batteries for it? Because I've tried.
So if you buy the one that's on Piper's desk, that one takes AAAs. If you have the one like somebody's got it's rechargeable batteries. If you have not bought one yet, I would recommend buy the one with rechargeable batteries. That was AAAs. That one doesn't recharge. All right. Now listen up. So let's finish the speech I started. Hey, this is a fun part because it is really easy. The kids that can't do this, it boils down to one thing. You just aren't paying any attention. There's nothing about this that's challenging. Nothing at all. There's literally like no counting, no anything. It's silly simple. But if you don't pay attention, you won't get any of it. But it is that simple. Okay, so here we go. That was a pretty big windup. Pretty big claim that it's silly simple. Homework for tonight is a worksheet.
Oh yay!
I have it now.
No, because it has to be explained to you.
But I
We have
Jonesy,
nothing
what do you
going
need?
on quiz-wise for the rest of the week. I know you do, but now you're going to suffer pain for telling me why because I'm supposed to be for the last 2 weeks. All right. Feels like 2 weeks. All right. Slope-intercept form is what we're doing. If you remember the last time we had the word form, we've been dealing with linear equations that makes line. We've already seen one form. It's called standard form. Here's the second of 3. We're going to have standard form. Already had that one. Slope-intercept form and something called point-slope form. So these are just a linear equation that visually looks different than another one. I don't mean numbers. I mean where's the x's, where's the y, what things look like. Of all the forms, oh boy, is this one popular. Like this is the one you're like happy with. By the way, if you have a graphing calculator, this is the form that you want. You don't want point slope. You don't want standard form. You want slope-intercept form. In order for you to graph it on using a calculator, it has to be in slope-intercept form. This calculator. There's some online ones that'll take any one. You can put it in point slope. You can put it in standard form. It works great. But our calculator, the one that we recommended, it must be in slope-intercept form. Okay, we're going to do 3 things. There's lots of words here. Boy, are they all easy if you pay attention. I'm literally saying I could teach this to a kindergartner. It's nothing challenging about it. But it's weird. It's Algebra 1. You haven't been taught this before. We've been talking about the shape of a line. Okay, there's one example. We called them linear equations, box 1. Right? Sorry. Who was passing out?
What did I do?
Where did you put them? All right, we've been talking about these things called linear equations. Everything here I want you to write down in box 1. Linear equations. What was the basic definition of a linear equation? It's an equation that makes a line. That's literally it. Now, we would like to throw some fancy words up here, so we say models. Fancy math words for it makes lines. There's also this fancy word here, function. We haven't described what a function is. We will in this chapter, just not yet. Linear equations are an equation that models a linear function. It's an equation that's going to make a line. I give you an equation. Today, you'll learn how to do it. Use your graphing calculator. You plug it in your graphing calculator, it makes a line. Okay, the other things, some examples. You just need to write one or two of these. An example, well, there's a linear equation right there. There's another linear equation right there. This is standard form. Standard form is where the x and the y are on one side all by itself. There's a number without an x and y on the other side, called the constant. And all of the numbers are integers, no fractions, no decimals. Lastly, this number can be a 0, this number can be a 0, but they both can't be 0. If that's the case, it's a linear equation. So what's a nonlinear equation? If these are linear equations, what's one that isn't a linear equation? Give me an example.
Same variable.
Okay, turns out that's a linear equation. Why? Because I said that this 2 could be a 0. Hey, make that 2 a 0, and guess what you got? One variable. So it turns out one variable is still linear.
Zero variables.
Say again?
0 variables.
0 variables is, it would be an example, like 2 equals 2, non-linear equation. Here, you guys have not encountered this, but here's the real deal. Hey, x is to what power right here? X is to what power right here? If x is to the first power, it makes a line. If x is not to the first power, it'll make a line. It makes other shapes, literally other shapes. We'll explore them this year in geometry and algebra 2 and pre-calculus. If x is not to the first power, it doesn't make a line. Hey, non-examples. X is to the, you know what shape this makes?
A triangle. Circle.
Makes a smile.
No, what? It's not a shape.
Sure it is. It's
Everything's
not
a
a
shape.
polygon, but it's a shape.
Everything's a shape.
Hey, here's one where x is a power, right? This shape right here makes a kind of like a ski jump looking thing.
A slope.
Yeah, but it curves upward, right? Instead of, you know, some jumps are like this. Okay? So here are two examples where x is not to the first power and it'll make lines. But when x is to the first power, they make lines. So when the independent variable, big fancy words for the letter x or b or whatever the second letter is if you have two letters, when the independent variable is to the first power, it will always make a line. If the independent variable is not to the first power, it makes other shapes. For the rest of math, it's about dealing with what happens if x is not to the first power. By the way, we've already seen to the second power, right? We've solved x squared, right? Turns out it makes smiley faces or frowny faces, and we'll see that later. All right, linear equation, yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's to the first power.
For the first power, right? Linear equation, yes or no? No, because x is to the second power. That makes a smiley face. All right, and it has a much more mathematical name than smiley face. All right,
What's the name?
parabola. Okay, parabola is what anything to the second power for when x is to the second power what it makes. Okay, linear equations make lines. That means this red line right here must have an equation. It must have an equation, right? Secondly, all lines, except for vertical lines, all lines have a slope, a number that describes how steep it is. Yesterday, last night for homework, you calculated the slope. Could you calculate the slope of that line?
Yes.
Yeah, pick 2 points, calculate rise over run. What?
Is that the thing? I saw the thing on the test. Is that just like the little thing?
Parabola. You're going to see a lot. In fact, most of high school math deals with parabolas, believe it or not.
So it just looks like a little smiley face on the graph.
It does.
Okay, then that's-
All right. All right, now here comes a big one. All lines have slopes, except for vertical lines, right? All lines have slopes, right? Turns out that if you put a line on a graph, almost always the line will go through, almost always, almost always it crosses the x and the y axis. Perfect. Look at this red line. Hey, it crosses the x-axis right here. It crosses the y-axis right there. Now, there are some lines that do not cross both. Okay, stop right now and pay attention.
I have not looking at the board this whole time just because I have
Okay, just stop. You're talking. Just stop. Learn that skill of keeping your mouth closed. You don't have that skill, by the way. It doesn't exist in you. Okay. Almost all lines crosses the X and the Y. What lines don't?
The ones that are y equals and
Horizontal line only crosses.
the A, I mean the Y.
Horizontals only cross the Y, and vertical only cross X. However, all lines at least cross an X or a Y. Yeah.
Really don't.
What if it's like right in the middle?
Then it crosses certainly the X-axis. If it is the Y-axis, then it crosses the X-axis. If it is the X-axis, then it crosses the Y-axis. Good one. What'd you eat this morning? Do that again.
We've
All right.
been wondering what do you eat.
Okay, this point right here, which seems really silly, okay, it crosses the X and the Y, or sometimes both. Most of the time it crosses both. Most lines cross both. Okay, that silly concept is the big deal today. The fact that lines cross the X and the Y. Okay, we actually give them names. Where it crosses the Y-axis, we give it a name you can't say. All right, guess what we call this? No, but we are going to call that the y-intercept. That is where the line crosses the y-axis, not the x-axis, but where the y-axis is, where the line crosses. Now remember, vertical lines don't cross the y-axis. However, all other lines, horizontal and normal lines, we'll call them, right, cross the y-axis. So all lines, with the exception of vertical lines, have what is called a y-intercept. Are you literally saying, I'm just saying, where does the line cross? Yes, that's all I'm saying. Where does the line cross it? So in box number, what are we on to? Give me the big plus. That's the X and the Y. Give me the big plus. Big, pick up the whole box. That's fine.
But we can take those. No, okay.
Not box 2. We're just going to draw the X and the Y, the coordinate plane. Did you draw it, Chris? Now, Chris, on your paper, everybody, draw a line anywhere. Draw a line.
Mine's built different.
Did I draw a line? I did not. I did.
Mine's built different.
All right, there's mine, coordinate plane, and here's my line. Okay? Circle where your line crosses the y-axis. Guess what you just circled?
The y-intercept.
You circled the y-intercept. That's the
So
big
that's
thing
all
of the
we're
day. Can you do that?
Yes.
You can pass today's class. That's it. Nothing more than that right there.
Are you sure?
Okay, I'm lying a little bit, right?
Anyone
But
can say that.
that is literally what we're doing today, is we're finding where it crosses the y-axis, sort of. That's 2/3 of what we're doing. Okay. No, I did draw a line.
Equation of a line.
Yes, but you're going to see how easy this is based upon this. This is the hardest part, is finding where it crosses the y-axis, believe it or not.
Why would it be hard?
It's not hard. I told you today's the easiest day. Now, that can be the case if you drew your line like that, but does it ever cross the y-axis?
Yes.
It would. Okay, so that's kind of the point we're making there. Okay, so believe it or not, that's the hardest thing of the day, right there. And if you can do that, you can do the rest of the stuff. It's pretty simple. Okay, y-intercept, where is it?
Right there.
There.
There's a number associated. What's that number?
Negative.
Can you do that?
Yes.
That's the y-intercept. The y-intercept is -4. It literally equals -4. You're like, is that what we're doing? Yes, that's what we're doing today. Where's the y-intercept?
-2. That's 2, sorry.
+2. So y is equal to +2. Now you got to stop me right now. Is there any kid out there right now? They're like, I wasn't paying any attention. I don't know what you're doing. Okay. It says 2 right there. Rylan, where's the y-intercept? He's giving me hand and arm signals. Yes, that's it. Okay. That's all we're doing today.
Not even the X, you have to do the Y.
You just have to do the y. Now, there's a reason why we don't do the x, but we'll explain it in just a second. But there is, except for horizontal lines, there's also an x-intercept. And we will talk about the x-intercept, guys. No, we won't talk about it for a while.
Today.
All right. The second thing you already know, it's what you did last night for homework. What did we do last night for homework? What did we do last night for homework? We did slope, okay? So for the last few classes, we've been talking about slope, the steepness of the line. It's a number, okay? So we have two numbers now. The first one is your slope, you did last night's homework, and the second one now is your y-intercept. They're two numbers, okay? Finally, let's put them together. This is where people get mad at me. Last year, that people that had me, and if you had a good pre-algebra teacher, when I asked you to graph a linear equation, you did something called the table of pain. The table of pain is when you took a linear equation, you did this big honking table, x, y, and a whole bunch of math right here. And it literally took you 5 minutes to graph a line, and half the time you did it incorrectly. It turns out the only reason we get you to do this is because this is a good method to graph anything. It's a horrible method to graph lines because it takes you
Forever.
And there's a 5-second method of graphing line, which we don't teach in pre-algebra, we teach in Algebra 1. In pre-algebra, we teach you the method of graphing anything, linear or non-linear. You do a table of pain. It's table of values is the real name. And by the way, when you took the NWEA test the other day, you saw lots of those table of values. It's not that table of values are useless, they're very useful. It's just that for linear equations, it's stupid because there's a way easier way of doing it, okay? The pre-algebra kids are literally doing table of pains right now. And I had some parent write me a note saying, why are you teaching them the horrible method? And I'm like, well, are you the math teacher? Like, there's a reason I'm doing this. So they taught their kid what I'm about to teach you. And it happens every year, but I'm not mad at the parent. I'm just saying they don't understand why you learn a table of pain. You learn a table of pain so you can graph anything. Circles, triangle, whatever. Lines, parabolas, ellipses. You learn the table of values in pre-algebra. That's why you learn it there. But clearly for some functions, linear function, there's a way, it takes you 5 seconds to graph lines if you know what you're doing. So linear equation, x is to the first power. Last year, you did table of pain. You took this, you solved for y. You literally solved for y, moved 2x to the other side. You got it into this form right here, then you did the table of pain. Okay, took you solid 5 minutes if you were quick, 10 minutes if you were slow to do this. This year we learn an easier method. The easier method is called, if it's in the slope-intercept form, boy, does it make this easy. Okay, in box number 3 at the top, write slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. A lot of people will just say INT. Have you either got corona or it's hot in here? What is it? I've yet this year sweat in class and now I'm sweating. Because it's 75. Okay, now it's not.
It's hotter than outside.
It is.
75 degrees.
Well, it is in the wintertime. In the summertime, like, ooh, 75 feels great. Okay, slope-intercept form, write this down. Here's an example of slope-intercept form. Y equals 2x plus 1.
That's just normal.
It's called the slope-intercept form. So guess what? It's going to have two things. Guess which two things? It's going to have the slope and the y-intercept. Somewhere in here is the slope and the y-intercept. Somewhere in that equation is the slope and is the y-intercept. In fact, there's no math to do. There's no adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. The slope and the intercept are sitting there right in front of your face. Last night you calculated slope. It's right there. You just need to be told which one it is. Okay, let me tell you which one it is. The number attached to x is the slope, and the other number is the y-intercept. M is going to be your slope. B, now why did they choose B? Because I don't know. They just, because they already used Y, so they couldn't put y-intercept. So they chose, okay, we got to use another letter. Let's use B. B is your y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. The slope is how steep it is. And it turns out this is magical. in the sense of I can graph this in 5 seconds now. If I know the y-intercept and the slope, I'll show you here in a second. If you know those two things, graphing is no big deal. If you don't know those two things, you got to do a table of pain. Slope and y-intercept. This is why Hannah has been saying y equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b, because it's a very, very, very useful formula. Yeah, and our pre-algebra book chooses not to introduce that. A lot of pre-algebra books will show 8th graders y equals mx plus b. Our book just did, the one that they use for pre-algebra here doesn't.
I learned this in 7th grade.
Wait, didn't I have you for 7th grade?
No,
No?
I was in Virginia.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, no, you had most of us for 8th grade, not 7th.
So, well, this is the 3rd year, so I know I've had some of you for 3 years.
No, not this class. Not this class. It's only in the other class.
Only the other class?
Yeah, no, everybody else left.
All right. Up here, really? Everyone else has not been here 3 years?
Everyone else who was here for 3 years.
No, wasn't Reese here for 2 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
No, you're
Tyler,
right. No one has been here for 3 years.
Tucker, Reese.
Sierra, you weren't here for 3 years?
No.
No, I was at a ghetto school.
All right.
Falcon?
All right, back up here. I don't want to get us off track here. Okay, so now we're going to come back to what's homework going to look like. Well, I told you today is ridiculously easy. I'm not lying. They're going to give you a linear equation, and they're going to say, name the slope and the y-intercept. Chris, what's the slope of this line?
2x.
Okay, and it's a number. Remember, slope has a variable. So what's the number?
2.
What's the y-intercept? Is it really that simple? The answer is yes.
Wait,
It
are
is
you kidding?
really that simple.
You're kidding me.
I'm not. There's no but on this.
Wait,
Good
no,
one.
you're lying. You're lying.
No, I'm not. I told you today is the simplest day of the year.
Oh my God.
There is no but or catch on that.
We have trust issues.
Why do
with
I
you.
have the picture of this monkey and not the one with the glasses? Because anybody can do this. There's no catch to this. Kaylee, hey, box 4. Kaylee, what's the slope of the y-intercept? What's the y-intercept? I'm not lying. That's it. Aiden, slope and intercept of the middle one.
4 is the slope and 9 is the intercept.
Wrong.
And who's that monkey?
Oh, -9.
Now it's right.
Now can we have
Who's the
homework?
monkey, Aiden?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just forgot the negative.
All right. You got to be a slight smart monkey,
Yeah.
Porter. What's the slope and y-intercept? Tristan, sit. I can't fool. I was hoping to fool Porter. I couldn't.
Can I
Hey,
do the homework
if
now?
there's no number attached to, no, it's 3 things. This is the first of 3. The number attached to x, there's no number, so it's 1, and there's a negative, so -1, 7. Are we good on that?
Yes.
All right.
No butts in
I
that.
said, there's no buts. I told you today is easy. If you pay attention, so far you paid attention.
Okay, we should have trust
All
issues
right.
with you because you say that's it and then you say but.
The second thing is they're going to give you words. Look at the board, please. They're going to ask you to write the linear equation, but they're going to tell you the slope and y-intercept. Look at the board.
Oh, okay.
They tell you what the slope is, a slope of 6, and they tell you the y-intercept of 3. So all you have to do is why Hannah said y equals mx b 40 times. You take y equals mx plus b and you plug. Could you screw this up? Sure, if you mix the numbers around.
So like that.
M is a German word. That's why M stands for slope, but not S, because we would think S should be the letter for slope. M is slope, B is your y-intercept. So it says I got a slope of 6. That means, well, slope is 6, and the y-intercept is 3. Make sure you put it in the form of y equals mx plus b. There's no buts here. That's literally what they're going to have you do.
Done.
Sophia, look at the board. Tell me the equation of that linear equation. I got a B and I got an M. One of these is B and one of these is M. Which one is which? Can you write it on your piece of paper? Because it really is this easy. slope is m, y-intercept is b. So all I'm asking you to do is to erase m and write a half. All I'm asking you to do is erase b and write that. Can you do it now? Well, do it. Just read it, left to right. Seriously, no? Can you write it on your paper? Write it on your paper. I'm going to come and look at it. All right.
Yeah, do
Go ahead.
I
Can you do the next one?
want to do it too.
1/2 x.
Oh, no. Left to right.
Yeah, y equals 1/2 x
Keep going. Let him talk.
plus
No.
Let him talk.
-2.
Now, did he say something wrong?
No.
He didn't say anything wrong.
1/2.
We would just say the plus and the minus would turn into 1 minus, right? So this is what he said. We would just turn the plus and the minus into a minus.
Mr. 38.
I would not mark you wrong if you wrote that, by the way.
Can I do that?
Sophia, is that what you have written on your paper?
Can I do the next one?
Can I also go the rest of your paper?
No, let's stay and get
Can I
the
do
whole
the
darn
next
thing.
one?
And then, if
I
you
already figured everything
guys
out.
stopped interrupting me, we might have been done by now. All right. Doodle box 5, all by yourself, very quickly. Be careful on the middle one. Yeah, but we're not going to write plus minus.
Oh, yes. Minus.
No.
Just minus.
Yes.
But I would still technically be.
It would be right. I wouldn't mark it wrong if you left it there. We just say it's not fully simplified. Anyone struggling with this? All right. Who is the person most likely not to get all 3 correct? He just got that right.
I got all of them right. Thank
I
you.
have all of them right guaranteed.
Guaranteed?
No, not guaranteed, actually. 50
What?
50.
There's 3 of them. So it can't go 50-50.
Well,
Nate,
That's not a nice question.
it really isn't.
Gary.
Well,
I'm not getting it.
who is the person, Ari, that I need to help the most to get this correct so they can get an A on the test? Is that better? Well, then I don't know how to ask that question then. Sit.
Throw it.
Then people fail.
You
Okay, so who
What
do
do you
I,
think?
Ari, how many times do I ask you a question in class? How many F's have you gotten in class?
I don't know.
0.
Oh, 0. Oh, I don't know.
All right, Haley, first one. What do you got?
Y equals 2/3 minus 4.
2/3. 2/3.
2/3 x minus 4.
Okay.
that's exactly right.
Nathan.
All right, Harley, you got the middle one. What do you got?
Y equals -4t plus 0.
14. Okay. Now, here's the only thing about that is, do we need to put the 0 in there?
No.
So it would not be wrong if you said -0 plus 0. We would just choose to leave off the 0. Okay. All right, Nathan, you got the last one? Is the x attached to the slope or the y-intercept?
Oh no, so just 4.
So say it again.
Y equals 4.
Well done.
So what?
Hey, by the way, guess what that makes that? Josie. So guess what that makes this?
Undefined. What?
It is a, this was your question from yesterday.
No slope or something.
No, the slope is 0.
Oh, is it?
This is
horizontal line?
This is a horizontal line. Okay? So horizontal lines in the form of y equals k. Well, it says y equals 4. It's a horizontal line. All right, horizontal line. Yes, once again, there's no buts today at all. It's this simple if you've paid attention. Well, we got one thing left. Here we go. Tonight for homework, just remember, all horizontal lines are of the form of, well, if the slope of a horizontal line is 0, 0 times x is what Nathan just did. He goes, oh, then I don't need it. So that it's y equals, not k, but b. So I have occasionally some kids get troubled by this. You told me it was y equals k, but when you throw in 0 for the slope, you actually get y equals b. Okay, both b and k are just numbers. So don't get lost on that. We generally say that all horizontal lines are the form of y equals k. What we really mean is y equals the y-intercept. Okay. Here's the new trick. Look at the board, please. I'm going to give you a line. Equate. Hey, stay with me. I'm going to give you a line that matches an equation. Okay. If there is a challenging thing today, it's not that challenging. It would be this one. You have to turn this into that. And you're like, okay, there must be the hard. It's not. It just requires you to do what you did last night for homework. But I'm going to give you the graph. You don't need to use a formula. You do have to calculate the slope, and you have to find the y-intercept. But I will give you the picture of the graph. So what do I mean? Okay. If you need to write the steps down, write the steps. This is box, what are we on? 6? Box 6. Step 1. You got to find, literally find, this is the first thing we did, find the y-intercept. You circle it, you write the number. When you find the intercept, you're finding a point. The y-intercept is a point. To calculate slope, how many points do you need? To calculate slope, how many points do you need? You just found one, so guess what the next step's going to say? Find another point. Okay? To find the slope, you need to find another point. First one's going to be your y-intercept, that's point 1. The second point, you get to pick. No, 10th grade.
No, that's all 10th grade.
Yeah, all 10th grade. Yep. So find the y-intercept, that's your y-intercept. You need that point because that's the b in the y equals mx plus b. To find the m, we got to calculate slope. So the next thing you got to do is find a second point and then calculate the slope, which is rise over run. You put both of those numbers in and you're done. Okay, maybe a little bit more complicated than the other ones, but it's not bad at all. Step 2 requires you to find one extra point. And it's got to, the line's got to go through a lattice point, like through where the black lines come together. Okay, not sort of kind of, it's close. It's got to go exactly through there. So put your pencils down, watch me. There's my line, yes? Step number 1, Chris says what? It's on your paper too, because you wrote it down.
Find y-intercept.
There it is, right there. It's -2. Done. Y-intercept is -2. Step number 2 says find the slope. In order to find the slope, we need 2 points. Here's 1 point. I got to find another point. Where's the next point? I see either here or here. It doesn't matter. Either one will work, right? So to do that, we got to find a second point and then calc what you did yesterday when you calculated slope. Rise over run. It looks like we're going up over. You see what I did there? Up 1, 2 over 1. That's 2 over 1. That's the slope. But 2 divided by 1 is y-intercept, -2, slope of 2. Step 3, plug them into the y equals mx plus b. So what's the equation of this line? Y equals 2x minus 2. What did I do? I found the y-intercept, done. It's -2. I calculated slope. In order to calculate slope, first point, some other point. Okay. Calculate the slope. Up 1, 2 over 1. 2 over 1 is 2. Here's your m. Instead of writing the word slope, you want to put m equals. That would be smart. Here's your b. mb. Y equals 2x minus 2. Done. That's it. Oh, heck yeah, it is easy. All right. Here we go. One more time. Step number 1, find the y-intercept. Right there. +2. I need a second point to calculate slope. Here's 1. Here's 1. Here's 1. Here's, I can put any of those. It looks like I'm going down 1, so -1, +1. So I'm getting -1 over 1, which is, you got to stop me like, what is he doing? I don't understand what happened. Or I do understand, nobody asks me questions. Okay? Hey, here's your B, here's your M. We toss it into y equals mx plus b. Here's your M, so minus x. Here's your b plus 2, and we're done. That's it. You didn't do this last, well, some of you did. You didn't have me, right? We didn't. I never gave you a line, and I said, what's the equation? Now you can do that, and it's a simple
That's
process.
the only part I'm confused.
Which one?
Like I know everything else up until plugging in.
This, instead of calling the y-intercept, call it b. Instead of calling it slope, call it m, and then you know where they go. Okay? All right, let's do this one. How many people already have it done while I was talking? All right, here we go. Step number 1, find the y-intercept. Where's the y-intercept? It's on your papers. -1.
And then 2/3.
Oh, you guys are killing it.
And then 2/3.
Here's the second point. You can pick that point. You can pick this point. You can pick this point. You can pick this point. Any of those work. I'm going to pick the closest one. No, I didn't. I lied. All right. But you will still get the same thing I get. Now, you have got, if you pick this point, you'd get up 1/2.
Yeah.
Mine is up 2/4, but that still reduces to 1/2. We got the same number. You're supposed to stop me if you're lost. Yes. Yeah, but that reduces to 1/2. Divide top mod by 2. Just reduce this fraction, 2/4. Oh, which, okay, so you picked this point. What was the second point you picked? Which one? Right here? Now you count how many squares up? How many squares across? That's why the answer is 1/2. We got the same thing. But notice, if you don't pick the same points, as long as they're lattice points, you will get the same answer.
So if I just got 1/2.
Hey, this is your B, this is your M. Plug those into y equals mx plus b. Y equals 1/2 x minus 1. Piper, yay? How'd I get what?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get 1/2. I got up 1, 2 over 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 2/4. That reduces to 1/2. Carly picked this point right here. She got up 1/2. She still got up 1/2. Still got the same thing.
I didn't answer it. I answered
So
it.
this would be.
Anyone else?
So the slope is m.
Is M, just M. And then B is your y-intercept. Okay.
We
One
can do this
more.
around.
Number box 8. Here we go. Y-intercept is
Sorry.
1. We need another point right here, maybe
So 2.
up here. You could.
Wait, why that?
It literally does not matter. It does matter if it's not a lattice point. So I can't pick here, but I can pick here. I could also pick here. You just need to pick something. Okay. It can't be literally the same. You get 0/0, right? You got to pick a second point. Hey, if I pick this and I'm going here, I'm going down 1, 2. So I'm going down 2 over 1, 2, 3. So I'm getting -2/3. You're supposed to stop me if you're lost.
I am not alone. I have been.
Final equation. Go, Rowan.
Y equals 2. -2/3 x plus 1.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Grab your calculators. You are claiming that that is this. Let's see if it's true. You are claiming that that is that? Okay, I think so. All right, let's see if it's true. All right, quick class on graphing with your graphic calculators. The upper left button says y equals. Press it. Upper left button says y equals. You get a flashing black dot. That is where you type in what's to the right of the y equals. What's to the right of the y equals is -2/3. So you put negative button. 2, well, fractions need to be written with division symbol. -2 divided by 3 plus 1. The upper right button says graph your line. And you should get a line that looks like this, unless your brother or your sister has jacked around on your calculator and messed with your zoom.
Wait, so what if there's no?
Yeah, because
However, if you do in fact type it in correctly, you do in fact get the line. All right, try this one more time for those of you that did not get it. Hit the clear button. Hit y equals and hit clear. We'll try this one more time. You're going to type in negative. You've got to use the, if you get this wrong, it's usually because you use the minus key. Negative 2 divided by 3. What's the very next thing? No. What's the very next thing? An X. Now we got to find the X button. The X button, because you use it so often, is right here. You see it? It says xt theta, because those are the variables you use the most. Press that once and you get a magical X that appears. Now put +1. Now hit your graph button upper right. And now magically appears the line. +1. It's somebody messed with your Zoom button. So we do Zoom standard. So if you're, like I said, if this is a calculator you got from someone else and they've been messing with it, then it's typically because your window has been changed. Get the line? Just to see your plots are on.
I'm not wanting it out.
Only 5 minutes left.
Well, it's 12:14 on that clock, but it's normally like a minute or two faster than bell.
So we got
Yeah?
We get out at 12:15.
Good.
Away.
All right. We will have more fun with the graphing calculator on a later date. Sierra, go back to your seats. But that's your first, and don't worry if you're like, what? I already forgot what he had me do on the calculator. The graphing calculator is very powerful. It will do every bit of the math in this math book if you know what buttons to press. All right, so that's your quick class on the graphing calculator. Do you think you have enough to do those 3 things that we did? Find the slope, find the y-intercept. I give you a graph, you plot it, or I give you words and you write the equation, because that is everything.
my calculator is a tablet.
If you want to mess with your graphing calculator when you're doing tonight's homework, then graph the lines. Sophia, I don't know what did you get it or not get it? All right, I got that part. That was made clear to me. Anything that's not from chapter 8 yet, you probably need to, because chapter 8 started second semester. Even though, well, that was in China.
It says 12. I know that. 12.
It says 1, 2, then it says 1, 2 plus 4. So 1, 16 is what it says. So the bell's about to, I'm sorry, 12, 16, the bell's about to ring. That clock's probably like a minute fast. Sierra, grab one. Josie, grab one.
Can I swear?
Here's yours.
Can I swear?
Did you square up?
No. Are you trying to find the one? I already have one.
Got one?
Sophia.
What is that ridiculously awful noise?
I don't know.
Is he spraying like Axe or something?
I just want to like.
You know, that's what 7th grade boys do.
Little thing is not that he close.
Hey, when you swallow that and you choke to death, all right, e-learners, any questions? If so, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
Are we eating in here?